as a feminist, I think it's been really empowering to kind of reclaim the history of beer and be like, you know what, capitalism might have tried to steal it from us, but we're taking it back and we're doing it better than the guys. Sorry guys, but you know. And we have had to fight, like claw our way through to do it. And realistically, if you look at Welsh drinks brands, and if you consider how many breweries, distilleries, how much talent there is in the Welsh drink scene, it's Drop Bear, Tiny Rebel, and maybe Penderyn that have made it national. 3. It just doesn't happen. And especially, you know, Drop Bear being alcohol-free, women-led, queer-led, oh my God, we're asking for trouble, you know? But we did it. We did it.
Welcome back to Small Business Voices Wales, the podcast that shines a light on small businesses, the kind that hold our communities together and the backbone of our economy. I'm Franck.
And I'm Kim. Today we're joined by someone who's truly innovative and a trailblazer in all the ways that you can define that word. We've got Joelle Drummond, who is the co-founder of Drop Bear Beer, Wales' first B-Corp brewery, and she's breaking the mold in so many different ways, really, including being the world's first queer brewery owner. Joelle was also the director of sales and marketing of Drop Bear, so we're thrilled to have you on the podcast, Joelle. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So before we go into Drop Bear and, you know, all the amazing work that you're doing there, the bold initiative that you're taking with the business, we want to hear a little bit more about you, the person behind the brand, and just the journey and the story that brought you to the place that you are at today.
Well, yes, that's one heck of a way to get started, especially on no sleep, but let's get started. So, Joelle Drummond, who is she? Why am I here today? First things first, I'm a mother and a wife and an entrepreneur, I guess. And honestly, I still cringe a little bit when I say I'm an entrepreneur because when I began this journey, I didn't even know what that was. It's like, oh, okay, that looks fancy. So yeah, I guess I'm Swansea born and bred, grew up very working class, went to Swansea University twice actually, couldn't get enough of the stress apparently. But in between my 2 degrees, I had what I like to call my quarter life crisis, where I realised the structure of formal education was falling away and I had no idea what to do next because I had no one telling me what I should be doing. So I did the only rational thing and I ran away to Australia, which was very expensive and questionable in many ways, but it did lead me to meeting my now wife and business partner. So it is completely random that I went to Australia, but I do feel like there was fate pulling me there because Sarah and I had to meet because we had to start this journey together. So after a year, we moved back to the UK, and then we went into full-time employment, and we're just generally understimulated. I just felt like I'd go to work every day, do really well at my job. Everything was fine, objectively, but I just felt like, is this it? You know, this isn't enough for me. I just felt stunted. So Sarah and I had always thrown around business ideas. None of them felt quite right. And then one day she came to me with the idea for an alcohol-free craft brewery, and I guess the rest is history.
Oh wow, I like that. Running away to Australia to find love.
Yes. Yeah, love and a business partner. Yeah.
No, so it's interesting actually, you mentioned that before you had really no clue or couldn't really probably relate to the word entrepreneur. Actually in the last episode, I think we're speaking a little bit about that, how sometimes these words that are used in business, entrepreneur, innovator, all of that, like they actually sometimes marginalize people who might actually be doing that exact thing. But I'm curious because you mentioned that you and Sarah previously had been thinking of different business ideas. So is that something that, you know, was always in you from like a young age, or people around you doing it, or was that just you guys trying to, again, just find something to, you know, bring that spark back into your life?
Yes, so I think Sarah and I would have slightly different answers to this question. I think I'll obviously just answer for myself. The answer is in the context of my family, I'm really bizarre. Full stop. Next question. No. My family are very, I guess, normal. There's nothing wrong with that, Working class, kind of trained for their jobs, did their jobs, stayed in their jobs for their whole career. That was it. Retirement. Done. I didn't know any entrepreneurs, any business owners. I'd never been exposed to the world of business. And I remember as a child having all these ideas for businesses and books and just creating things, kind of filling gaps in markets, solving problems, but just thinking, well, in another life, but that's not for me because people like me don't do that. And that I kind of just left it. And then I went down another path. And it was only really when I hit adulthood and my prefrontal cortex developed, I was like, actually, no, I do want to do that, and I'm going to get on with it. So yeah, I had no exposure to that. Sarah grew up with business owner parents, and in a much more privileged setting. So she was exposed to it. So I think her meeting me kind of gave me what I needed, which was that person who was like, well, actually, no, you can do that, and we're going to do it together. And yeah, so I needed Sarah to do it. I don't think if I hadn't have met Sarah, I would have still been too heavily influenced by the people in my surroundings, which is sad, but it didn't happen. So.
And for her, was it the environment she grew up in? Was it connected to beer at all, or it was a completely different business?
Well, I think there was a lot of beer drinking.
Yeah.
I think anyone who knows Australians can attest to that. But no, it was more kind of leadership, business management, and hospitality. So I guess in some ways related. But for her role, so she's director of finance and operations, very relevant experience. So yeah, a little bit easier of a transition for her. For me, it was literally just like being dropped into an ocean and being like, okay, swim now.
I'm very interested in knowing your connection to the brewing history. So before you answer the question, to telling us how you feel about connected to the history of brewing, I'm going to read this to you.
Okay.
All right. So historically, brewing actually began as women's work. Thousands of years ago, in places like ancient Egypt, women were the primary brewers. And the very first recorded brewer in history is a woman, a goddess of beer, called Ninkasi. Beer was made at home. It nourished families, provided safe hydration, sometimes believed to be safer than water, and even had spiritual importance. It's said that humans might have brewed beer before they even baked bread. So, this rich history, how do you feel connected to that as a woman?
Yes, that's beautiful reading. Thank you. I didn't actually know it was before bread. I love both things.
Yeah.
I have to say I love beer more, but realistically, I do love a good loaf. Yeah, as a feminist, I think it's been really empowering to kind of reclaim the history of beer and be like, you know what? Capitalism might have tried to steal it from us, but we're taking it back and we're doing it better than the guys. Sorry, guys, but
No, absolutely. I love it.
Fact to fact.
Fact to fact.
Look at the awards.
And, no, especially because I feel, I think you've even sometimes highlighted this, that it's such a market that's saturated with men.
Yeah.
And then now you being that woman coming, smashing literally what they know or what they're accustomed to. Can you tell us a little bit more about that journey and that experience, really coming from people that probably not only didn't believe in you both as people just because of who you were, but also equally at a time where I don't think alcohol-free beer was, it might have been emerging, but it wasn't that mainstream as it is now. So it's almost as if you were trying to battle two things at once. Can you tell us a little bit more about just that process?
Yeah, honestly, story of my life, trying to do too many things at once, making life hard for myself. But yes, I think, we suffered from imposter syndrome quite a lot. It is really challenging to walk into these rooms and just be so different, be a lot younger, a lot less connected, and obviously a very different gender, and then you throw in we're gay. Why not make it harder? God damn it.
What was it on the Traitors? I don't know if you watched the Celebrity Traitors.
I haven't seen it, no.
You should definitely.
I should.
But Kat, she said, which you just reminded me of that.
Yes.
She said she has the triple threat. She's black, she's a woman, and she's gay. And she's like, what are you choosing? Obviously you're not choosing, but then it's almost like, you're making just life so hard.
Yeah, you honestly, you've got to have a sense of humour.
No, exactly, no.
But so that was hard. I think people underestimated us a lot, which was really, really hard to deal with, especially when we were coming to investment, because women generally have such a tiny percentage of venture capitalist funds allocated as it is, and then in alcohol-free beer, which was really not a recognised thing at the time. But I think it's also empowering because when you stick at it and you do well, people are just like, what? How did you do that? So it's the element of surprise. And it was really hard, with the alcohol-free element. There were a couple of beers on the market at the time. Honestly, they were terrible. All the beers in the market have come a long way, even the ones that aren't as good as Drop Bear. They are a lot better than they were. So we've all kind of been dragged up with the innovation in the market. But we just were faced with, okay, this is bad, and we were like, okay, well, we can do this better. And I think people automatically were saying, no, we don't want it, but the key priority for us was getting liquid on lips and getting them to try it, and sometimes not even telling them it was alcohol free until afterwards, because automatically people assumed it was going to be bad, and to try and create a product that is so good that if they automatically think it's bad, it challenges that. It's hard. But it's something we've worked at, and I think prioritising the quality of the product has been key for us, because at the end of the day, it needs to taste good. I hope that answered the question. Sorry.
Yes.
Not only does it taste good, which we'll probably have
to taste at some point.
Yes.
Yeah, we will
But
taste
it also looks good,
Yeah.
And I think you've probably put a lot of effort and a lot of thought really behind actually making it look as it does.
Yeah, we wanted to make alcohol-free mainstream, because when we launched, the beers that were on the market, they were very much targeted towards the mindfulness kind of segment, which, fair enough, that exists. But at the end of the day, there are lots of just kind of bog standard people like me who want an alcohol-free beer, maybe one night a week, maybe every night a week, maybe every now and again. And they don't necessarily want to feel like they're having this super niche wellness drink. They want to feel like they're having a craft beer. And that's where we saw the real opportunity for growth and the gap. So that's what we tried to fill with the flavour profiles and the visual aspect to the branding.
So many of us like drinking, consuming beer,
Yeah.
but we actually don't know how beer is made. Could you please talk to us about the process of making beer, and also the difference between how you make alcohol-free beer and alcohol beer? Yeah.
So there are a couple of different ways that you can make alcohol-free beer. And the way that we do it, which we strongly believe is the best way, is to basically take the traditional alcoholic brewing method and just tweak a couple of small details to ensure that alcohol doesn't develop. And then it just tastes like beer, because you've treated it like beer from the very start. Okay. So I will discuss this method primarily, but I can touch on the others if you like. Yeah. So really, you start with very natural products. So the number one ingredient in beer is water. Okay. Sounds boring. Surprise! That's why it goes down your throat so lovely. So you've got to have high quality water. You treat your water as well. So you can add different things, like different levels of calcium, for example, that bring out different tastes and flavors in the beer. So like if you change the molecular profile of the beer, of the water, in one way, it can bring out more bitterness in the hops. If you change it another way, it can bring out the richness of the malt. So it's crazy interesting. That's not my personal job, so I can't talk about that in great detail, but my team are fantastic and know exactly what they're doing, so I leave them to do that. So yeah, you start with the water, then you heat the water, add malt, which is just a grain that's been roasted, so you can have all different types, and after that's been in what we call a mash tun, it's transferred to another vessel where you bring it to a boil, you add hops. So hops actually are antimicrobial, so they used to be used in healing in traditional herbal medicines. I'm not saying this is medicine. Just putting it out there. Trading some people would. I'm not going to make that claim today.
Body sauce.
It's better than water, right?
Yeah, well, it's tastier than water. But yeah, then you add the hops, bring it to a boil for a set amount of time. We add hops at different intervals. So, for example, if you add hops right at the beginning, that's what adds the bitterness to the beer. If you add them right at the end, it just adds a little bit of flavour and aroma. So, for example, with our tropical IPAs need to be nice and bitter. We add hops at the beginning, and then about halfway through, we add more hops, and they give it flavour. And then right before we take it off the heat, we add hops again, and that just makes it smell really fruity. And then the wort is called wort at that point, is crash cooled, put into fermenters, and then we add yeast. Fun fact about yeast, not the sexiest beer ingredient, I must admit. Yeast is never sexy, but ours is really cool. So when we first started brewing in someone else's brewery, they use this yeast. It's kind of like sourdough starter where it's alive. You have to keep it alive, you have to feed it. So we actually got them to send some to a lab, and they treated it, harvested it, and sent it to us. So now we brew again in our very own brewery with the first ever yeast from the first ever drop that is produced. And the more we brew with it, the more of a signature flavour it gives the beer. So I get really excited by this yeast, as you can probably tell by my face if you're watching the video. But yeah.
So is there a secret to your formula or
I
your
think
product?
yeast.
Because I know, for example,
wouldn't tell
you wouldn't say it. I just want to know. Because Heineken, for example, they claim that they have a secret formula that only one person, I think, or 8 people in the world know about.
I just
Do
don't
you have,
believe
you
that.
don't.
At the end of the day, it's beer. Everyone in the brewing industry knows how to make beer. We don't have any secrets. I think the secret, the not so secret is just not compromising on quality. We use high quality ingredients. If the beer isn't good enough, we don't sell it. We do loads and loads of tests. Obviously, we have our recipes, which we don't go sharing with anyone. But
So that's the secret.
that's, yeah, I guess. I think, and also our yeast, it's that signature flavour, because you can use, it's kind of like when you're making bread at home. I'm really targeting the bakers with this, aren't I? You can have the packet dried yeast, which essentially you can get for beer. Or you can have the wet yeast, which just gives it loads more flavour. So that's what we use. But yeah, it's really not that complicated. I think a lot of people try to make it seem complicated, but at the end of the day, we're just trying to make great beer. And it's really not that complicated.
Feels like a good time to be bringing our tasting
Yes.
segment. So for me,
Yeah.
to preface this, I don't drink beer. I've maybe had 2 sips in my life.
Oh, wow.
So maybe this is what convinced me.
Yes.
Yeah, you never
Yeah.
know.
I'm quite excited about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Did you work on that as well? Try to get the perfect
Oh,
sound?
yeah. Perfect level of carbonation.
Yeah.
Perfect amount of liquid in the can. But Jess, would you like me to tell you a little bit about the beer before we start? Right, so this is called Peach Cut Lager. We launched this in July of 2025 as part of a cut lager series. So we brewed a traditional European lager, so very kind of easy drinking, crisp lager. And then we split it into 4 and we dosed it with different fruits. So one was peach, one was pink grapefruit, one was raspberry, and one was guava. Because we always like to have a wild card.
Very exotic.
Everyone's like, what is guava?
Yeah.
Yeah, some people have never actually heard about
I know,
it.
it's shocking. I love guava.
Yeah.
I love fruit though. So peach is our biggest selling beer. And as I was telling you earlier, it's about to become the company's biggest selling beer because it launches on Monday, the 24th of November, into 475 Morrison stores. So it's our biggest account to date, which is really exciting.
Congratulations.
Wow,
Thank you.
congratulations.
But yeah, I think there's a massive rise in fruit beers across the world, and the UK and Europe are leading the way with this. So it really targets younger drinkers and more women that are looking to enter the beer world, but are maybe a little bit intimidated because it can be a bit of a bro space where you're like, what even is a triple hopped IPA? I don't know. Or a milkshake.
That was going to be a
milkshake
question
stout.
I was going to ask you because you go to even like a bar or
Yeah.
whatever and like there's so much, right?
Yeah.
Craft beer, there's a lager. Okay, I know a stout is just the darker one. And then now, there's IPA. There's so much. Like how to even differentiate
Pale
between
ale,
one.
ale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
It's becoming like a little bit like coffee. Like you go, someone say, I want frappuccino, I want cappuccino,
Too many
I want,
options.
too many options, yeah. So, do you know all of them? Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yes, I do know my beer styles pretty well. But again, I think some people in the industry like to make it a bit of a boys' club and make it seem more complicated than it
Yeah.
is. At the end of the day, an IPA is just an ale with a lot of hops and a certain level of bitterness. And
so IPAs are more bitter.
yes, they are bitter. So they're called India Pale Ales, and they were created when the UK ruled India, and they used to transport beer from the UK to India. And to stop it from turning sour, they added loads of hops. As I said, they're antibacterial, antimicrobial. So it kept the beer safe for consumption, but obviously it was very bitter. So these days they are bitter, but they should be palatable. They shouldn't make you go, ugh. If they do, it's a bad one.
Okay.
But yeah.
No, but actually, if you're trying, your goal is to make or to introduce beer to more females, I feel like you're winning because, like I said, I'm not a beer drinker. But firstly, what I really liked about this is like just the smell. Like
Yeah.
you pour it and like it's just got such a lovely smell. But then as soon
Yeah.
as I tasted it, because I feel like the times that I have actually tasted beer, it just feels really bitter and just not really pleasant in the end. But then this doesn't have that.
No.
It's quite lovely. It doesn't have that aftertaste or that lingering, feeling in your mouth.
Yeah.
And I really like it.
Great, that's so good. Yeah, we wanted it to be, because our core range is very intense craft beer flavours, which, craft beer drinkers love. But we wanted to create something that kind of bridged the gap and was an easier session. So for people who do like craft beer but want something a bit lighter, or maybe people who don't really enjoy craft beer but want to try and enjoy beer, at the end of the day, you should like it. It shouldn't be like disgusting.
Exactly.
So yeah, this is very smooth, juicy, lots of peach, which is a lovely fruit in beer.
It feels like apple juice, but less sweet. It's
Yeah,
like,
not too sweet.
Not
Again,
too sweet,
I think
yeah.
with alcohol-free beer, some of them can be very sweet.
Yeah.
So we try to avoid that because a lot of people try to cut down on alcohol intake for calories, like they want to lose weight. So then if you're choosing an alcohol-free beer that has just as many calories, you're like, well, why don't I have the alcohol then?
Exactly.
So yeah.
No, it's lovely. So where can people, genuinely, you said this will be Morrison's. Actually, by the time that the episode drops, it will already be Morrison's, so people can go there. Okay, is there anywhere else?
Yeah, we have our own website, dropairbeers.com. We have free 48-hour delivery. It's on Amazon, and then it's just kind of scattered around the UK.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, we'll definitely link that for anyone that I feel like, what's really good is, your brand, people actually know it, and I think it's the story behind it, more importantly, Swansea, and it's good in terms of even putting us even on a bigger map. So
Yes,
Thank you.
exactly. I think that's what we're all about. Even here, I think we're talking. So we'll be having Drop Bear here when we open our restaurant, the ground floor.
It's exciting.
Yes.
We'll have to come by.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you can have so many and you won't be drunk. But you will go to the bathroom. Whenever we do like product development, we drink so much beer, and everyone is just in the toilet all day
all the time.
because there's just too much beer.
So if I start drinking this in work, it's fine, right?
Yeah, desk beers.
Look at that, Brian.
Bright doesn't actually drink alcohol. I think this will be good for you, Bright.
Yes.
No, seriously, I actually like it.
She's not just saying it for
No,
the
I'm not
podcast.
serious.
I hope anyway.
Okay.
Take one, try.
You've got work to do.
You've changed the perception of alcohol-free beer. And when you say that, was it nationally or locally? How was it received, for example, in Swansea, like in your family? Is it something that you found very difficult, or how did you navigate that? How was it for you at Swansea level?
Yeah, challenging, I think, at Swansea level. I'll always remember the moment I sat down with my parents and told them that I was quitting my stable full-time job in my chosen industry to start brewing alcohol-free beer. They looked at me like, are you having a breakdown? Are you okay?
That's quarter-life crisis.
That crisis was continuing. Maybe I wasn't okay. But yeah, I think actually when we launched, a lot of our business took place in England and the southeast of England specifically. And we had a lot more export before we ever had distribution in Wales. Oh. It took a lot longer for Wales to kind of adopt the concept of alcohol-free beer. I think we're generally always in these trends a little bit behind England. We just take a little bit longer. I think we're a little bit more traditional with things like beer, which is fine. We're there now. But literally, yeah, we've had supermarkets in England and in Hong Kong and Finland before Wales were like, oh, maybe this is a thing. So it's really good to work with people like you guys to build that local presence. I think the fact that we now have our very own brewery in Swansea helps us as well, because people can pop by and we can show them around and kind of legitimize the beer as well, because I think a lot of people are like, well, is it just a soft drink with beer flavouring? Is it actually beer? And, you know, that's a valid point, because one of the ways you can make alcohol-free beer is basically having all these different extracts, add in water, carbonate in it, and you're done. That, to me, that is not beer. Okay. It's not beer. So I can understand why people worry about that. So when people come to our brewery, see all these people brewing, digging out mash tuns, you know, doing hard, heavy lifting work, they're like, oh, actually, okay, I get it. This is real. So that's helped.
I think it's interesting you mentioned the mindsets, and I think that's very much a Welsh, even Swansea mindset. Yeah. Sometimes businesses early on are not supported. It's that famous Dylan Thomas, graveyard of ambition, right? And I feel like sometimes that is the unfortunate thing about the culture that we have, because we've got so many strengths as a nation and as a people, but then looking over the border to England, it seems actually initially that's where more of the opportunities are. I'm quite keen to then hear a little bit more about that journey that you took, especially when you were raising capital and trying to get investors, etc. I was listening to something where they were talking about generally like Welsh entrepreneurs or people that are trying to make it from Wales sometimes aren't actually seen as positively. Sometimes it could be just because of your accent, people just assuming, like, oh, Welsh values or whatever, and they're just undermining them. So yeah, I'm just quite keen to explore a little bit more that venture capital journey, or really the investment calls that you've had, and particularly for any learning as well that other people that are looking or thinking to go through that same journey can take from it.
Yeah, you raise some really valid points. And I think brand Wales, and I say this with love as a Welsh person, but I think brand Wales needs a lot of work. I think nationally within the UK, because a lot of it is because of media portrayal in movies and TV shows. Welsh people are portrayed as less intelligent, we're the comedy character, we're not to be taken seriously. And that might not seem like a big deal, but it's these little things, these nuances of what is Welsh, what are Welsh things that really kind of ingrain themselves in people's perceptions. So yes, I think Welsh brands generally are seen as, okay, this might be an opportunity, but let's just do it in Wales. Let's put it into all the Welsh stores. It's boutique, it's small, it's got limited potential. So that has affected us. Don't get me wrong, we've broken through it, but by God, it's been hard. And we have had to fight, like claw our way through to do it. And realistically, if you look at Welsh drinks brands, and if you consider how many breweries, distilleries, how much talent there is in the Welsh drink scene, it's Drop Bear, Tiny Rebel, and maybe Penderyn that have made it national. 3. It just doesn't happen. And especially, you know, Drop Bear being alcohol-free, women-led, queer-led, oh my God, we're asking for trouble, you know? But we did it. Exactly. But it's been hard. So when it came to investment, you know, those kind of mindsets really played in as well. You know, again, limited potential, maybe not as experienced, not as intelligent. All those connotations are there. So we've been very successful in raising funds, but again, we are an absolute anomaly. And I'll be honest, we have not had support from Welsh funding bodies. So there are things like the Development Bank of Wales, they wouldn't touch us. Absolutely wouldn't touch us because, again, they didn't understand the potential. They were looking at more traditionally accepted industries, things like tech, safe. Everyone loves tech in investment. Doesn't always mean it's a good investment just because it's tech, FYI.
Exactly.
You know, not to say there aren't good investments, obviously there are. But we had to go elsewhere. And again, nationally, internationally, that's where we got our money. Our biggest investor is based in Cardiff, I will say, but he's American. So again, more of a challenger mindset. So we've raised capital, we've raised a lot of money, about £5 million now. Which again, for 2 small women who had no experience, literally, I know I'm oversaying it, but we started with a saucepan from Wilkinson's. Like, honestly, we did not know what we were doing. And realistically, would I have invested in us at that point? Probably not. Like, but I'm glad that people saw in us what maybe we didn't even see at the time. And that was real potential and commitment. So our initial crowd runs, we went to a platform called Crowdcube. Now, the good thing about platforms like Crowdcube are that they're not as traditional. They're more challenger mindset and lower entry level. So you can go in there, you can demand a higher valuation, and you can build in customer loyalty early. So people can look at your brand and be like, okay, I'll give you a tenner. That might not get you far towards your goal, but realistically, that person who spent £10 7 years ago is buying £200 worth of beer every year off your site. They're on social media saying how great you are. They're leaving you Google reviews. They're going to their local pub and saying, stock this beer. You know, there's value in that. So early stage investment, that really helped us. We're at the stage now where we go for bigger tickets, angel investors, high net worth individuals. But, you know, that wouldn't have worked for us early on.
I think you've touched like a very, very good point there, that it's something that I've been shouting about for the last 10 years, like the Development Bank of Wales. We had a lot of service users coming here that we recommended to them, and it's exactly what you said. They tend to focus on big businesses, high-tech companies that actually they support, and most of the time these people would actually leave the country. So small businesses that are in the community, creating jobs for the community in Wales, the money stays in Wales, but they don't get that support. And it's something that we've been trying to raise awareness of. Like, we have all these banking institutions that are supposed to be helping people in Wales, but they're not. They are for the big companies. And like, for you, I would like to know, like, was it did you have a social impact in mind when you decided to actually set up the business in Swansea? Because if you had customers in England and investors in England, you could have decided to stay in England and have it easier, right? But you decided to actually have the business in Swansea. Why did you make that decision?
Swansea's our home. And, you know, if you look at our market, pretty much every single serious competitor is in London. They're connected. They started with money. They're rich.
Yes.
So, yeah, it was a big decision. You know, life would have been easier if we'd moved to London and spent a bit of time networking and getting money before we even started. But we don't do things the easy way, as I've mentioned.
Yes.
And I fail to believe that you have to be in London to be successful. And, you know, we are testament to that. And I do speak out about it, and it drives me insane. And we shouldn't, as the UK, we shouldn't be like, okay, well, London's great, but the rest is rubbish, and there's nothing going on, and we haven't got any high streets, we don't have local business economies. Wales needs investment. Wales needs innovation. We mentioned that Wales maybe has a more traditional mindset, maybe less risk-taking. Could be because the poverty levels might be a bit higher. People are a bit more nervous about taking risks. But we need to change that. And it's businesses like this and the work that you guys do that, that do it. So we're fighting the hard fight, but, as you said, we just shout about it.
Exactly.
And we don't stop shouting. Yeah. Someone's going to listen one day.
And we were talking about who are the working people of today, not people that used to work for the steel or coal mining companies, entrepreneurs, like people setting up businesses, local cafes, producers. These are the people that the government should be helping, because they are linked in, they're based in the community, they are working, creating jobs, creating wealth, and it stays there, and it's just unbelievable. It makes me even sad, like, to just it upset me, like, when I hear stories about local entrepreneurs hardworking, trying to make it, and not being supported by the government and these institutions that are supposed to be helping them in the first place.
Yeah, it really does. And it's independent businesses that are the lifeblood of Wales, and that should be. And something I've really noticed in Swansea over the past few years are lots of big American and international companies, especially in hospitality, filling up the high street, and Park Towers, Popeyes, Denny's. Where is the money to invest in local businesses that are more innovative, and actually the money goes back into Wales? So I'd love to see more of that, but
and I was saying, I think even in terms of the culture that we've mentioned about, like, trying to change that, because when Popeye opened, and then Kim was trying to be
I'm not trying.
a rebel.
I'm not trying. I'm still protesting.
She's not gonna, she won't go there. And so the first day they opened, so I passed by Popeyes there was a queue, a long queue. And it's very different if a small business, a small cafe opens, and they will struggle to have people, like, for months.
I know.
And close, unfortunately, because especially now, like we're saying, with the affordability crisis or cost of living, it's really difficult for businesses, especially if it's food businesses here in the town centre, where it's actually really needed. I think there's still definitely, and that's what I love about even brands like yours, because I think it is working towards even shifting the mindsets around actually what does Welsh business look like, and actually people can support it a little bit more. But apart from that, from all you were saying, even with the journey and the uphill battle that you've had to continue sort of fighting, I think it's just a real story of, like, resilience and persistence. I think there's so much that speaks to both you and Sarah's sort of personalities, which I think shines through because I feel like the brand itself looks rebellious, which I love so much. And that's like a testament of both yourselves. But I'm also then curious to hear more, because you've had such a social impact focus really in the business, being even Wales's first B-Corp brewery. For example, sustainability has been quite important to you, and also just investing in your people and your teams, and just all of that to just try to maximize the impact that you have, to make it positive really on the world and on Wales. So has that ever been a challenge, especially at a time where you were trying to raise capital, where it might have come as a conflict really between you needing to be business oriented and then trying to also carry on the values that are quite important to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think Sarah and I, from the start, we wanted to create something that we could truly be proud of. We're not narcissists. We didn't want Drop Bear to be Joelle and Sarah be a co, but we wanted there to be elements of us in there. And at the end of the day, I can't, with conscience, create something that I don't believe in. And I know business can be used as a force for good. Yeah. So we've always tried to do that from the very start. Don't get me wrong, when we were tiny, operating from our kitchen in Mumbles in a 1-bedroom apartment, our impact was minimal. But, you know, as we've scaled, that commitment has grown with us. And we're really proud that we formalised that with B-Corp accreditation. You know, being Wales's first B-Corp brewery, it just legally holds us to account, which I think is really important. It is always a balance. Don't get me wrong, compromises have to be made. We try to make the best decision with the information and the resources we have at the time. At the end of the day, if the business isn't operating, we're not making any impact at all. So, you know, there have been, you know, tough conversations because I'm always the one like, why don't we do this? And Sarah's like, we don't have the money to do it. Or the money's over here, so we can't do that way. So, you know, it's all about compromise, but just trying to make the best of the situation. And then, yeah, when it's come to investment, I think, you know, really, actually, our investors have understood the value of sustainability. And, you know, we've used data in our pitches to show, because data does show this, that even in difficult times like now, customers expect, you know, sustainable commitments. They want to invest in brands that care, that do good, no matter what you're doing. So, you know, it builds long-term loyalty. So we try to rephrase it as an investment into the brand, into consumers, rather than, oh, it just costs a little bit extra to do this because we want it to be more green. So that's how we've angled it. And then it has kind of weeded out the investors that maybe we don't want to work with. And that is something I will say we have actually, you know, surprisingly considering how I've said how difficult it is, we have said no to investment as well. And I think that's really important for any small business owners listening. Don't be so desperate for the money that you just take it from anywhere, because you need to be really careful about who you surround yourself with and who you get involved in your business.
That's really good. That's like music to my ear, because that's something that, yes, we actually decided in the last 2 years now.
At least.
Now, exactly. With certain people, partners, we just say no. Because sometimes, you can compromise, but your values and your principles, you cannot compromise on that.
Yeah.
You have to be able to say no to certain people, especially people that do not value your input and your work.
Yeah.
So that's a really good, and it's a very good advice to tell people. It's not, you cannot take money from anyone. You have to choose who to work with and who not to work with, and work with someone who actually values you. So that's what leads me even to my question is, a lot of people say that do not mix business and family, but you actually working with your wife and it's working. So how does it work, and what is your secret?
Well, I'll be honest. I think it's been a really great test of our relationship. Let's just say that. You know, when we started Drop Bear, we'd actually been in a relationship about a year, not 2 years, not even 2 years. That is, you know, do you even know someone really after that time? So ideally we would have been together a bit longer, but again, we don't do things the easy way. The first 2 years realistically were hard. I think with any startup, you kind of need to be a jack of all trades at the start. So Sarah and I were just doing absolutely everything together, and we are so different. Like, our values are the same. Like, the foundation is the same. Everything else is different. Our mindset's different. She's very logical, very analytical, hence why she deals with the money. I'm the more creative ideas person. So we kind of butted heads for about 2 years. We argued loads. We brought work home, especially like in the pandemic, when you were sitting in your living room working together all day, and then it's 5 o'clock, you close the laptop, and you're supposed to be okay then. No,
it doesn't.
We were not okay.
Especially if you live with the person.
Yes. But we've evolved as people. I think as our team has grown, it's forced us to take on more, solid roles. So I'm the director of sales and marketing. I have my team. She's ops and finance. She has her team. Obviously, our teams work together. We work together as well, daily. But we have our roles, we have our responsibilities. And I think as we've grown up as well, you've got to bear in mind, we were in our early mid-20s when we started this. We were still a baby. Like, what was I doing? I don't know. I'm in my early 30s now. I've got children. I'm a bit more grown up, I like to think. And we respect that actually these differences are great and they complement each other. And we've never been yes men to each other, which I think is very important. You don't want to go into business with someone who's just like, yes, you're the best. Every idea you have is the best. Oh my God. You want someone who lifts you up, don't get me wrong. But you want someone who challenges you and calls you out when you're wrong. Or maybe your idea isn't very good. There have been times where I've put so much love into a campaign and I'm so excited to show Sarah and she looks at it and she's like, no. And I'm like so upset. But then afterwards I look at it, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, no. This isn't good enough and I'm going to go back. And then I come up with something so much better and we're all happy and then it performs so well. So I think it's just been learning to grow up and to understand that differences are strengths and it's just working out how to find your dynamic.
So do you actually, like, when you're working, you remove the personal relationship? You're like, okay, right now we are business partner or we're not wives. And
yeah. I think,
But how? Because that question, because I always feel like, because we're humans, right? Everything in us is just really connected. I feel like in as much as we might say that, like, practically, how do you make that distinction or that separation to say we are not this now, we are do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Like when we're sat in the office sometimes, we love each other. We treat each other differently. I'll give her a hug. I'll hold her hand. If I can see she's stressed, I'll go make her a cup of coffee. Don't get me wrong. I would go make a colleague a cup of coffee, but I won't give him a hug or kiss or anything. Like, that's not this type of workplace. But there are times where we have to hold ourselves to account and be like, okay, would I speak to another member of staff this way?
Yeah.
Because your boundaries, your barriers are down. But if you're having a stressful day, you might snap at each other. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to talk to her like that. I'm going to talk to her like she's that person brewing the beer over there. And that has helped. I think just the way we communicate. At the end of the day, I'm not sat there thinking, who is that woman? Is she just my colleague? I know she's my wife. That dynamic is still there, but it's just about respecting each other in the workplace as colleagues.
No, I think that's a really good tip, actually.
I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. And like a very practical one that I think is quite important. You're obviously the queen of marketing and branding and everything. So for you, and I feel like actually that's shown through because I feel like your brand does probably have a loyal customer base and a loyal following to it, right? Probably started from the crowdfunding that you initially had and has actually just evolved more. What makes a really good brand?
Oh, good question. At the end of the day, people buy from people. And something we were very keen not to do at the start was to show who we were. I know that sounds ridiculous, but we've all got to try and remember what the world was like pre-COVID. Brands were very separate to everything. They seemed to be less emotional, at least in our space. Whereas during the pandemic, people wanted to support communities. They wanted to support other people. We came to the front a little bit more. And that's really helped foster that loyalty because people want to support our team. I think what makes a good brand is having a good USP, having a purpose and actually sticking to it. At the end of the day, what makes Drop Bear different to all the other alcohol-free beers? It obviously the flavour, but it's the fact that we don't compromise. We don't compromise on quality. We deliver fantastic customer service. When people come to Drop Bear, they know it's going to be good. And if for whatever reason it's not good enough, we fix it. And I think that's really been a strength in our brand. And it's really amazing the absolute breadth of people who buy Drop Bear. We have 18-year-olds who have never really drunk beer, and we've got their 80-year-old granddad who has drunk beer their whole life but has been told by their doctor they need to cut down because their blood pressure's through the roof, but they still want a beer. So those two people can sit in a room, drink the same brand, maybe a different beer, maybe the granddad will have a stout and the 18-year-old will have a peach cut lager, but they're enjoying it for very different reasons, but it's the same brand. And it's having that appeal, but in an authentic way. And yes, I guess if I had to answer your question in a non-long-winded way like I just have, in one word, authenticity.
So were there deliberate choice to choose black because it's really, really distinctive.
It is. It
it's-
is.
Yeah, and maybe it's the only one. If few of them, I think out there, beers like having the black can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think in the world of craft beer, black cans are becoming popular. It was a very deliberate choice.
Yeah.
I think we wanted the brand to look more premium. Because at the end of the day, you know, it is premium. We like to say it's accessible premium. It's a premium quality product at an accessible price. Kind of like if you want to think about Brewdog in the past, you know, people would go there knowing it was generally going to be a pretty good beer, but it wasn't like crazy expensive. It was like £5 a can, which some of them are. So we wanted it to look like that, and just generally with the colours that we have with silver, it looked cheap. It didn't look as exciting.
Yeah.
So you know, you've got to stand out on the shelf, because if people walk past it, you're lost. You know, it's got to stand out. So
I think I was thinking on your point around authenticity, because sometimes the advice that's there, I mean, the point on authenticity is really good, but what you were mentioning about the different types of audiences that you actually have drinking the beer, sometimes people will tell you just focus on one, you know, you can't please everyone or different types of people.
Yeah.
So how do you make that balance, and how have you actually made it work and succeed the way you have to appeal to actually so many different people, even though the brand is literally the same?
I think our goal from day one was to make alcohol-free craft beer mainstream. And mainstream is the majority of people. That's not to say we've got 50 different campaigns running, one aiming at, you know, targeting 18-year-olds, one 80-year-olds, one 50-year-olds. We kind of just have positioned ourselves in the middle. And in terms of the flavour profiles, we've chosen flavours that are bold but very different from each other. So within the product portfolio, there's something for everyone, especially with this cut lager series. You know, it really does have different appeal. So even just the choice of the beer style, like stout, generally an older drinker. However, I will add, women are driving the growth in stout now. Women love stout, and I am a woman and I love stout. So it's not just me drinking it.
I've tasted the Guinness before and
Not for you.
bitter.
Yeah, it's crazy how Guinness tastes different in different countries. It does. But, you know, it's about the breadth of the portfolio. Again, no, not losing focus, not having like 20 beers.
Yeah.
I think we've made the product accessible. So we've made it vegan friendly. It's gluten free. It's low calorie. It's low sugar. That makes it sound like it's going to taste terrible. It doesn't.
No, it actually doesn't.
It does still taste like beer. So it's that. And then it's just the messaging. I think having it broad but focused, I hope that makes sense.
No, I think that's definitely helpful. Yeah.
It really is mostly the product. And that's been the key thing.
No, because you have nailed it is the thing.
Yeah.
It's just trying to extract little secrets from you.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, it's not even a secret, but just to hopefully help someone else.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, no.
I think you need to acknowledge that not everyone is going to like your product. That was a hard pill to swallow early on, because as a founder, especially when you're creating a consumable product, you pour everything into it. You're so proud. You have this emotional attachment. And when it's that first time someone says, "Oh, I don't like that," you want to jump off a cliff.
Yeah, it's like a personal
oh my
attack.
god, I might as well just quit then. You know, not everyone's opinion matters. Your product isn't for everyone unless you're selling water. Then you know everyone should
Even
drink.
then, it's maybe the plastic
people do
bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? Water does taste different.
And some people don't drink water.
They should.
Are you talking about yourself?
But yeah, it's understanding you're not going to appeal to everyone. What we've used a lot of data to work out where are the biggest opportunities. Let's focus mostly there. What kind of products will appeal? And yeah, again, just the dietary has made it so much more accessible, because in our market, there's basically no one else that is vegan, gluten-free, low calorie, low sugar, and craft beer.
Ticking all the boxes. I love it. Mm.
Yeah, but still tasting good. Still got to taste good.
And social media, what role has social media played in the success of Trobe?
I think social media has been great to have a real connection with our direct consumers. So, you know, a lot of our business comes from trade. So we sell to supermarkets, we ship pallets abroad, we work with wholesalers. Mostly it's that. But to be able to communicate with them, to gauge feedback, to gauge opinions, to kind of show the human side of Drop Bear, who they're supporting, who's creating the beer, really understanding the product. It's been a great communication tool, especially given that alcohol-free beer has such a bad reputation and we're trying to actively flip it on its head. It's great to have a platform to be able to have those conversations, especially during the pandemic, when people were online just all the time. Although I feel like people are always online these days.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is a bit scary. I mean, it's obviously good for business if they're going into your page.
It's great from a business perspective, but as a human, I'm like, oh my God, we need to get off our phones.
Exactly, and actually connect more. And
Yeah.
actually, that's what, if we are actually stocking these in local pubs, local restaurants, that's what the nice thing could be from it. You've touched a little bit on this, talking about your personality and everything, but keen to explore a little bit more around how you feel your identity, however you interpret that, has shaped how you show up in business, and shaped actually just the journey that the business itself has taken.
Yeah, that's a big question. I think, my values have shaped the sustainability aspect of Drop Bear. So that, also has shaped the success in fundraising, in sales, because, not just consumers, but supermarkets have their own sustainability goals, for example. So they want to buy from brands that consumers will like, but also that can help them meet their goals internally. So, that's really helped the success of the business, just that. And then in terms of, for example, my queer identity, and I guess, growing up in South Wales as the only out person in my school, it was hard. I was bullied. It was challenging. I had to be resilient. That's helped the success of the business too, because running a business is hard. It's really hard. There were great days, but lots of hard days as well. But it's really helped me as a leader understand that there is strength in diversity and different perspectives. So I want our team to be way more diverse than it even is, to be honest. But it is diverse, and it's really helped us shape, in our hiring practices, making sure that we are creating job roles that don't just appeal to straight white men. And, there's definitely work to be done there. Nothing wrong with straight white men if you're listening. Okay, I'm not hating on you guys, but we need different perspectives too. Yes. So it's really helped us in our hiring practices, and I think within Drop Bear, everyone just feels so confident to be their authentic self. That sounds so cheesy, but it's actually really important, because creativity thrives when people can be themselves, and it's just shaped everything, to be honest. It shaped the brand, it shaped the product. People come to us with ideas because they feel confident and respected, and know that if they're having a bad day, or if they decide to identify a different way or whatever, they're accepted and they're safe. So yeah.
Thank you. That I want to come back to the point that you made, even you trying to say about not having anything against white men. Yeah. I think it's kind of something that is actually current, and when you see what's happening in the media and out there, and I think people have to understand that trying to promoting diversity has nothing to do with anyone. Like, we're trying to make sure that everybody has access to the same opportunities. Yeah. And most of the time people think that, okay, we're trying to promote more women or trying to promote more people from diverse background. It's because they don't understand, like, as you said, you were bullied in school. Like, you had a different way of seeing life and people, or of expressing yourself, and people didn't recognize that you were not accepted by certain people. And that's what a lot of us are actually went through, I would say. And what we're trying to say is that we want to have access to the same opportunities, and that to make sure that everybody is equal, so not one is disadvantaged and some people are being put in a better position. And again, the same with businesses, access to a network, money. we want an equal world, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that if you are part of if you are not part of that group that we're trying to promote, that you are being disadvantaged. No, if you want to be part of this diverse platform, then you're welcome, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you have to feel like we're trying to put you down. So it's very important that people understand that.
Yes, I think, it's obviously we're all striving for more equality and equity in our societies and communities, and there has been a bit of backlash, and with straight white men feeling excluded in certain spaces, and it is very challenging to navigate everything these days. I have two little white boys at home waiting for me, my sons. I want a better world for them, a more equitable world. They're going to be more privileged than lots of other people. I recognise that, and they're going to grow up and understand that.
Yes.
And I hope that they use their voices to help raise other people up and not feel like they're being personally attacked. They just need to acknowledge the privilege with which they've been born.
Yeah.
I have privilege, even although it hasn't been the easiest ride for me either. I'm still white in a native English speaking country. I have privilege compared to others, but we all just need to recognize that, okay, we might not have as much privilege as them, but we have more than them, and how can we make it better for everyone?
Yes.
And that's the important thing.
And even with what both of you are saying, just because you are for something or trying to push something doesn't necessarily mean you're against what feels is, the opposite. So I think, right now we're living in such a polarized sort of society where it just feels like it's people fighting against each other. You have to be part of a certain group. And if you are part of that group, then you immediately don't accept the other, and it can't be productive or useful for anything that we are trying to achieve. So in that, I think you also raised then an important point of, it's just all of us are trying to make it work and trying to succeed, and it's equally even in teams, like you said, even doing the research on it's like you are creating that inclusive, supportive sort of culture within the organization, and it's just more of that we need, not only within businesses but literally in the communities that we're living in.
Yes, businesses, local governments, they should represent the people that they represent, their communities, and it's just recognizing that, and there's only strength in having more voices in the conversation. So it's just speaking out about these things can be scary, because with all the keyboard warriors online these days,
and bots.
They're
not even, some of them are even real people going against
someone. Is just, everyone's angry, and you're going to annoy someone whatever you say. So,
but as always, I think for you, drop back, that a good example of business being a force for good. I think what you're doing with Drop Bear is very commendable. Really, really admire that.
And very inspiring for it to be coming from Swansea. But not only that, normally I don't actually like talking about age, because sometimes I feel like people, when they say young people, it could be done in a very undermining way. Age shouldn't determine your level of success, your gender shouldn't, all of these factors shouldn't really. No. It's just your achievements and the competence that you have. But for me, I think it's really remarkable and inspiring as well that all of this has come from you and your partner both, but also from Swansea, right? Yeah. So it's amazing. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So the future. So how do you see the future of drinking and the future of Drop Bear? Because I know that you expanded now, so you've bought Thomas Watkins, and how it's getting exciting, right? So how is the future? Can you take us in the future? In your head, how do you see the future of drinking? Also in terms of women drinking, or the demography, and also Drop Bear. So how do you see
Good question. So I see generally the future of drinking as much more balanced. I see more options, better options, so more inclusive products and brands, so that more gluten-free options, more alcohol-free, them being more widely accepted as a legitimate choice at the bar, not a compromise. I don't think alcohol's going anywhere anytime fast. It doesn't need to. I think it just needs to be more balanced.
I think we say that. They are saying the Gen Z are drinking way less than all the generations that came before. But that's what's actually amazing about having options like this, where it is actually alcohol free, but you can still be part of sort of that culture in a way. So yeah.
It's about keeping it social as well. I think a lot of people previously who were sober or maybe weren't drinking on a specific day, they would just not go out because they were like, well, there's nothing for me except a Diet Coke or water, so I'm not going to bother. But now they can go out, they can still have like multiple craft beers and then get in the car and drive all their friends home if they want, if they're a good mate. I think I see it a lot more balanced. I see, there's more competition, so I think a lot more interesting flavour profiles, a higher quality. We've already seen that. When we launched, the quality was pretty rock bottom, and now it's, a lot of people can't tell the difference when they have a good alcohol-free beer. So we see in awards, alcohol-free beers beating alcoholic beers sometimes, which is phenomenal. Like, if you told someone that 7 years ago, they wouldn't have believed you for a second. So see that. And then in terms of drop bear, yes, we're having what we like to call our hockey stick moment. So we have grown so much. Every year we've had year-on-year growth. We're growing about 7 times faster than the market. So it's been a lot to keep up with. Great problem to have. Don't get me wrong. I want the growth. Let's keep it coming. So we see a lot more growth projected. We have a couple of big wins now that are gonna just skyrocket things. So we've just bought more equipment which will allow us to increase our capacity by 700%.
Wow.
So that's been installed in February. We've just added 2 more people to our team, so we'll be hiring a lot more people. Again, I'm so proud to be able to do that locally when we're at a time where things like Tata Steel are cutting jobs, businesses are closing down on the high street. So don't get me wrong, we can't replace all the jobs, but I'm so happy that we can create some jobs in a really nice company as well. So a lot of growth. We want to be in every single supermarket. We're on our way. So we're in Tesco, Co-op, Ocado, and now Morrison's. And then we've got Thomas Watkin in Waitrose and Sainsbury's. So we're doing that. And then I think a lot more export. So we export to like 10 different countries, from Canada to Australia. Our biggest export market is Finland. So we had a national listing in Finland before we had one in the UK. That's the bias against Welsh businesses, honestly. But we've got it now, so I'm going to stop complaining. We love you, Morrison.
Thanks.
It's your girl, Jo. So that's it. I think a lot more growth, it's really exciting.
So what was the thinking behind the decision to buy Thomas Watkins then, given obviously it's alcoholic and different, the same but different from what you're doing with Drop Bear?
Yeah, I think we are genuinely the only brewery in the world that has started with alcohol free and then gone into alcohol. Everyone starts with alcohol and goes to alcohol free. So to be honest, when we started, it was never our plan really to go into alcohol. It was always our plan to have our own brewery though, because that allows us to become a profitable business. Whereas it's hard to explain, but within the alcohol-free industry, people use other people's breweries. The goal is fast growth and then a sale of the brand. So profitability isn't on the cards. They don't care. Whereas we want a sustainable business in all ways. So that's why we flipped it on its head and created the UK's largest alcohol-free brewery. So we were looking for a site for years. We put in an application in Abergavenny, one in the Valleys. They didn't work out, and then to be honest we were looking everywhere in Wales. We really wanted it to be local, and we hit a dead end, and we actually were so close to moving the entire business to England just because there was nowhere to go, and we were talking to Welsh government officials like, is there something you can do, local government as well,
to support.
Do you have a space? Like, we'll put money into it. We had millions of pounds put into this project. We were creating jobs. They just weren't interested. It's driving me mad. My blood pressure's probably up here just talking about it.
It is very disappointing, honestly.
Yeah, it is. But anyway, what we ended up doing was we were literally about to sign on another brewery up north in England. And we were like, let's just give it one more try. So I used to work in what used to be Wyville, it's Dobbies. now, a garden centre in Llansamlet, and every weekend I drove past Thomas Watkin to get to work. Never thinking much about it, to be honest. And then we thought, let's just reach out to Thomas Watkin and see if they'll sell us their brewery. They weren't selling the brewery. They weren't up for sale. There was no indication that they wanted to sell this brewery. We were just like, we're going to just try. Why not? What have we got to lose? And she was interested. So call it fate. I'm literally getting goosebumps talking about it, because
I am too.
honestly, it was like the timing with her personal life as well. It was perfect. It was just like these two things aligning after we tried for like 2 years to find a site, and then we just all came together, 3 women, and we made it work. So we bought it from a woman. Now 2 women own it. Thomas Watkin, you know, we didn't have to take it on. But to be honest, we want to create more jobs. We want to create a really fast growth company. And, you know, when you're in business, you're always looking at diversification of revenue streams, especially post-COVID with all the financial issues in the economy. So we thought, well, if this can be a revenue stream to actually help us create more alcohol-free beer and create more options, let's do it. And also then we're keeping a traditional Welsh brand alive.
Yes.
Because Thomas Watkin for many years had been in steady decline. It didn't have the resource. It didn't have the energy it needed. You know, you need to love it. You need to put so much into it for it to work. So we closed it down. We took out like 75% of the beers. We refreshed the recipes, the branding. We did the website. We did absolutely everything differently. And then we hard launched it 9 months later. And I was pregnant at the time. I was so tired, but I was also just like so energized by, you know, taking this brand that I knew my whole life and making it something new and like honouring tradition. Like with each Thomas Watkin beer, we tell a story from Welsh folklore or Welsh culture. So for example, we've got a stout called Miner's Pride. Sorry, I know you don't like stout, but Miner's Pride. You know, obviously like Welsh coal mining history.
Yes.
It's kind of acknowledging that I come from a coal mining family, not background. I didn't used to be a miner.
You were not born then.
No, I wasn't. And Blodwyn is, you know, it's a toast to all the hardworking Welsh women who over the years have supported their families, supported the mining families, the farmers, everything, and that they have never really been formally acknowledged. And having a whole beer, and it's one of our biggest selling beers, our number 2 beer. You know, and it's all about that. So it allowed us to preserve a little bit of Welsh culture and heritage. It allowed us to further support Dropper's growth. And yeah, I'm actually really proud of it. Even though it wasn't on the original plans. Again, it's about having a really focused goal and sticking to it, but also being open to being flexible and agile and being like, oh, actually, can we do things better? Can we add things in that actually help us reach our goal quicker or better? And that's what Thomas Watkin's been.
Yeah, I like the expansion. I like the way you've done it, like going from non-alcoholic to alcoholic.
Yeah.
Because the other way around, what I've seen it, like for example with Guinness or Heineken or Budweiser, when they went from alcoholic to non-alcoholic, and then people were like, oh, it's not really like the alcoholic one. And then it's not only now, as you said, the quality now, it's okay.
Yeah.
But it's still, like if I get a Peroni Zero, for example, it's not as good as Peroni. But going from non-alcoholic to alcoholic, then there won't be any debate. People just drink it and it'll be fine. Yeah.
I also think as well, because we're so used to dealing with really negative perceptions, we pay such close attention to quality that actually we apply that to the alcoholic beer, and they, like, I know I would say it, but they are beautiful beers, and people approach Thomas Watkin with a positive mindset because generally people like alcoholic beers, and then they're blown away because they are like, wow, the quality is phenomenal. So it's really helped us create a really high quality Welsh brand as well, because Dropper, whilst being based in Wales, is more of a national, international brand, even though it does have Welsh potential, of course, but Thomas Watkin is our Welsh baby.
I love it.
Yes,
I think no better notes to end on than that.
Yeah.
Before you go, we've got a quick fire round of questions.
Yes.
Oh.
So quick, snappy responses
I'll try.
from you. Frank, do you want to go?
Yeah. So what's one lesson you wish you would learn sooner in business?
Having a good product and brand isn't enough. You need connections, you need money, you need help.
Good.
So what's something uniquely Welsh that shaped you as well as Drobe?
Ooh, I think it's the resilience. You know, you have to be resilient in Wales. It's almost like an export at this point. You know, things are always a little bit harder in Wales. So I think it's really helped us generally in business. When people close doors on us, we just burst them down. We're not taking no for an answer.
So, if you were a magician, you had your magic stick.
I am actually.
Yes.
It kind of sounds like it.
So, what would you change about small businesses in Wales?
Access to finance. 100%. We need more access to finance. There is so much talent. There is so much passion. We need access to finance in order to get to the stage where a lot of lenders want us to be before they even lend to us. And this was a conversation I had with the Development Bank of Wales. They wanted to invest, but they wanted us to be at X first. And they weren't understanding that without their help, we would never get to X. So, 100%.
Completely agree with that. I think you went through the same experience that many people, including me, went to them, and it was like, yes.
But there's definitely something in there about, this is no longer quick, snappy, but...
We're not good at that.
Yes, we have more to say.
But about a risk-taking mindset,
Yes.
because you had that, and you know, you just by the mere fact of you starting the business at the time that you did, there was a lot of risk-taking that had to go in there. But I think in terms of mainstream institution, that's just not there at all, which definitely needs to change, because you know, look where you are now, and where you could have been even, you know, if they had supported early on. But hey, we are here now.
Yeah, we got there in the end.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Joelle.
No,
you
thank
are absolutely phenomenal and such a huge inspiration, I think, to so many people, including myself. So thank you so much for your time, for coming and sharing your journey. And I'm sure there's definitely a lot of tips. There's a lot of important elements that you've brought up that people can learn from. And hopefully for the decision makers listening, access to finance.
Yes. And we'll tell local people to keep consuming local and start buying Drop Bear.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Drop Bear's Peach Cut Lager is now available in 4 packs in 475 Morrisons across the UK. So head to your local and pick up a box and support local.
Amazing.
Cheers.
And it's really good.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so until next time, thank you to our listeners. Again, remember all the time to
comment, like, subscribe to our channel. So bye from Kim.
And bye from Frank.